Hello there. Welcome back to Good Germs Off-Road Adventures, and welcome back to Project Donkey. Well, I think we're up to about the fourth installment now on Project Donkey here, and just as a recap, this is where we left off. Now, of course, it's standing up on its end, but we have the box of the trailer pretty much built. Obviously, it's very rough. The welds are fantastic. But now, it's time for us to get into all of these goodies right here, which means we're going to build suspension. So let me more or less walk you through the bits that I've collected and what we're going to do with them. Clearly, those are shock absorbers. We'll start with these A-arms, or arms. I guess they're not in the shape of an A, so you can't call them an A-arm. Control arms. What these are the rear lower control arms from a Polaris Hawkeye quad, ATV, four-wheeler. So where I came up with the idea for these control arms and to use them for suspension, and I haven't yet shown you how I plan on using them, but we'll get to that. I was thinking to myself, I was working on the Hawkeye, first of all. I was sitting on the work stool, you know, the little stool where you roll around on the shop stool thing, and I was looking at the back of the Hawkeye, and in the back of my mind, I was thinking about this trailer, and I happened to be just looking at the Hawkeye, and in my mind, I'm thinking I want to do a trailing arm setup, like an off-road style suspension under the trailer, but like a trailing arm setup, independent, you know, of each other, each side. And just the shape of those control arms just looked like it made sense. So I went on the eBay website. There's a store out there, one of my favorite stores to buy parts from, called Power Sports Nation. So if you're checking it out, go check them out. And I found a used set, the pair, like $22, something like that. And they're in good condition. They're just dirty, but that's fine. So the shape, the reason why I thought the shape was good, because you have, the arms are parallel. This is the end that is your pivot end. And on the quad, you had your hub carrier and everything was right there. But these won't twist, I think. So we've got the wheel coming off one side, like over here. As it goes up and down, I don't think it's going to want to twist this, so it should stay good. Anyway, so that's what we're going to use. We're going to have to modify them a little bit. I think these shock mounts are going to have to cut them off, and I think maybe this ear here will cut off, and I think we'll leave this for support because this little plate back here is going to come in handy later. The shocks, these are actually the front shocks from a Suzuki LT80 Kids Quad, and these are not the actual OEM shocks. These are an aftermarket shock. You can see right there, it says Predator something or other. These are also from eBay. They're supposed to be gas-filled and an upgrade. The length is pretty short. I think they're going to be pretty perfect for this. Well, they're going to be, because we're going to make them work. Of course, here we have some universal shock mounts, weld-on shock mounts. We've got a bag of different lug nuts. These are standard trailer hubs and spindles. So far, this is the single most expensive part of the build, is this set. It's like $80. I think I got them on Amazon, of course. So we're going to weld, this is the spindle. We're going to weld it there. Yeah. And then, of course, we have the 4-lug hub. And then we have these spacers, which go from that 4-lug hub pattern to a 4-lug Polaris spaced, what is it, 4x156 thing. It's an adapter. We need the adapter because we are going to put these wheels and tires on it. Now these are the original front wheels and tires. Nope. original front wheels and tires from our 2003 Sportsman 700, otherwise known as Billy Badass. And these adapters fit perfectly. We've got the hub's going to go there, and the hub the adapter I've already put on the hub, it fits. So in my mind, this is going to work absolutely perfectly. Let me take this off before it falls off and makes a big noise. Give it to me. Okay, well, we're just going to leave it there then. I've also gone ahead, so to mount those control arms, I've started a little bit already. I had some 1.5 or 2 inch, 1.5 inch, I don't know, angle iron, and I just cut it into 1.5 inch long things, and they're just going to kind of go here, you know, like that, and we'll weld them to the frame. We, of course, to mount this up, we've got OEM Polaris, the bolt that runs the shaft down the middle. These already do have the sleeve. You can see it in there. The sleeves are already in them. They're still in them from when they disassembled whatever they disassembled. Anyway, we've got the original bolts and nuts to mount that. We'll make mounts out of those, and that should be lovely. I've also got this piece of metal here. A friend of mine gave it to me. He gave me 2 of them, actually. They're about 9 feet long, which is overkill, 3/16 thick steel. They are, I don't know, 1x2, no, maybe 1 by, I don't know. But we're going to use that and run across the bottom of the trailer. I'll show it to you when we get there. First thing we have to do, though, is we have to clean up the control arms because, well, they're filthy with grease. As you can see, there's a little bit of it there, some there. Anyway, we got to clean those up and go ahead and cut, I think, that ear off, because the way this is going to go under the trailer here. This is going to go back, and this will be on the outside because it's going to kick it out a little bit. You'll see what I mean. I've got it in my head, and in my mind it works lovely. So we're going to get these cleaned up and start cutting that off. I don't know. I might leave this on for a short time, but that's going to have to come off at some point, I'm pretty sure. Enough chit-chatting. Get to doing. All right, well, I've scraped off most of the junk on here. I also took out these pivot shafts. Like I said, these are in fine shape. Even the bushings are in fine shape. They're just really dirty. So we're gonna clean that up, clean these all up and get them ready to be used in this project here. Now let's get some of this. This is just simple green, you know. Let's get some of this just soaking. This is the dirtiest parts. Let's get some on here. The other reason why I kind of like these, and I didn't think about it at the time, but thinking about it now, is we've got Zerk fittings, which is good for maintenance. Okay, well, they're a lot better. They're not perfect, but I think they're good enough for now. The sleeves and the bushings cleaned up nice. The bushings are in really good shape. You can see where the sleeves were kind of wearing, but that's where they're actually the smoothest, but they're perfectly good shape to reuse for this project. I think next step is I need to get a table with a clamp on it or something like that. Yep, table with some clamps so I can cut some bits off of the A-arms or control arms, and I need to drill holes and clean up the angle iron a bit that I cut up to make the mounts for the pivot for the control arms. So do that. I've also got to cut. I'll catch back up to you in a little bit. We've got some other things to kind of prep, just little things. I'll catch back up to you when we're ready to start maybe mocking stuff up. All right, folks. Well, I've done a fair amount of cutting, a little bit of grinding, and some drilling off camera. So here's the control arm we're going to test with. Now you can see I've reinstalled the bushings and the inner sleeve. And you can also tell that right there, the old shock mount is gone, along with, well, you saw me cut, ow, that doesn't bend that way. You saw me cut that ear off of that thing. And so the control arm is ready to go. Here's what's left of the shock mount. I cut the welds as best I could, and then I just went after it with a little bit of violence, AKA an air hammer, as you know. And we made some brackets to mount the control arm, and we've done a little bit of measuring on the trailer. I almost forgot, we went ahead and cut this cross beam as well, because this is going to be what our suspension mounts to. And this is a very nice, heavy gauge piece of metal. I say heavy, it's like 3/16, so it's pretty good. And it's gonna sit kind of there. So the other thing I've done is I've made marks here, which is 20 inches from this end. This is where the axle is gonna be, right here. Center of the wheel, axle's here, and then the rest is there. So first, what I need to do probably is go ahead and clamp this on here roughly where it's going to be. This is heavy, and it's only going to get heavier as I add a spacer and a wheel to it. So let me add the spacer and the wheel to it now, and then clamp it to this, and we'll stand it up. How's that? Sure. Okay. As you can tell, I've just got my little 3/8 impact, and I've done it on number 1 mode. I'm not trying to obviously tighten everything up. Tell you what, this is the heaviest part of the whole trailer right here. Perfect. Okay, now that we have that doing some kind of thing, we need to clamp this. And maybe you can start to see why I wanted it to kick out. It turns out I did not need to cut the extra bit off of there, because if I go as far in as I wanted to go, then we would be hitting the tire. But I can clamp that sort of, I guess, right there. Well, let's lay this down this way. Okay, we'll just put the tire there. That's where I wanted it. Well, I don't have enough hands. Okay. I mean, that's kind of clamped on there, but it's not straight because it's not tight. It's hard to clamp a flat surface to a round surface. That's not correct either. I need to do some more thinking, and honestly, I need to go inside. My back is a little bit hurting at the moment from bending over. So let me take care of that, do some more thinking, and maybe I'll come up with a better idea by the time I get back. Well, I have figured out what was wrong with my mock-up. I'm going to do my best to kind of show you where I'm at. Okay. I'm going to weld this big cross brace there. It should be okay, because the tongue is going to also come back, sit on here, and weld to this as well. So that should give pretty nice and good support. This obviously is going to float like this. It'll probably sit somewhere in about like a there position, and then we'll do a shock mount somehow. I don't know, we'll figure that out maybe next. after we figure out this. That spindle is obviously going to weld on here. It's going to sit, in that cradle there. And I'll show you what that kind of looks like. So I'm going to pick this tire up, kind of set it in there, and we're going to put it right about there. And you can see we'll have movement in like that. Now I think what we need to do is kind of grab a shock absorber and see how that can fit. Because I really have no clue how I'm going to do shock absorbers on this thing at all, or if they're even going to work. All right, so I'm wondering, can I do this? I think that's going to be too much. Ow. Or can I do that? Is that going to work? The trick is, how do I clamp all of this to see if it's going to work, right? Because I really don't know. I have no clue what I'm doing, so therefore I have no clue if any of this is going to work. Clamping is going to be difficult. Let's see if we can figure that out. See, this doesn't have to have miles of wheel travel. Oh, wait a minute. Well, that might work. I can mount it to that plate that's in there. That might work. And then I can clamp this up here. Is this making sense at all? And can I even cycle this? That's the question. Let's find out. Oh, yeah. That's not even hard. And we can push that out to right there. Well, what do y'all think? That's Jez's off-road suspension right there. And I think it might work. Let's try it again. Because, having the shock out here makes sense because the wheel is out here. Oh, yeah. And that bottoms out. There's a cushion in there. And that bottoms out. And that's pretty well flat. Pretty close to flat. Not too hard to push down. And these are adjustable shocks. I think that might work. So here's sort of the good thing. It's just metal. If the shock placement doesn't work out, you can always move it later. It's, take the shocks off, cut the welds, and move them. It's not a big deal, but I really kind of think that might work. What I need to do now, though, is kind of mark where the tire goes, and I'm not sure how to do that exactly, or the spindle, because it's upside down. I'm probably going to need help from somebody else to come out here and mark it for me. Well, folks, it was getting a bit late last night, and I was getting a bit tired, and the body was telling me it was time to go inside, but now it is the next day, and well, it's already about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but that's okay. We made pretty good progress yesterday, albeit a bit slow on the progress. It's a bit warmer today, so I've got my big shop cooler over there running. That thing right there. The only reason I'm telling you is because you might pick up on the little bit of wind noise as them little blades go back and forth and direct the air. Anyway, I don't recall if I showed at all where we left off with a little bit of a mock-up on the suspension thing. So let me show you. So this is where I'm at. I don't recall showing this to you yet. I'm not certain I'm 100% happy with some of the placement. It does work and it does cycle, but it actually hits the shock right there before that bottoms out, and there's a bumper in there, so if that bottoms out on the bumper, that should be okay. But I'm not certain I'm happy 100% with that. So I think what I'm going to do is take this piece, lay it over on its side, which will then push this further towards the ground, which might put the shock at a better angle. I don't really know. Just gonna try it. So I'm gonna set camera somewhere up, and we'll see what we come up with. So I want to kind of lay it down like that. Now before I go to clamping it. Ow, what am I? Metal shavings? Sure. Let's get this set on here. See, it's got to scoot back a little bit more. A little bit more. That's probably, let's see, a little bit more. Okay, I think that's probably okay. It's, where's my measuring tape? Oh goodness, I am not prepared today whatsoever. That's fine. Okay. 22 inches exactly. I like it when it's exactly. So can I set this on here? Need to make it straight. Doesn't help that I didn't drill the holes in the mounting brackets, you know, directly in the center. Because why would I want to make it easy on myself? Oh, this might work a bit better. I think that gets our angle a little nicer. I'm going to start here with this one. All right, well, let's see. This might pop off. I don't know. Yeah, it popped off. Okay, maybe. Let's undo this. Let's put a little bit more sauce on it. Okay, now we've got a million clamps on this thing, and maybe we can see if this is going to work. Here we go. I mean, it works. I think we can scoot this out a bit more. Let's try it here. And I'm seeing an issue already with binding right here on this clamp that I'm gonna have to figure out real quick. Well, I think this is the placement. Even though that just broke apart, the softness felt correct. Oh my goodness. Okay. But I do think a lot of our placement is good. I have no way to test this without that thing doing that again. But I think this is the way to go here. So I think what I should do is probably tack some of this together, because this is where our axle is going to go, and I think this is correct here. So I think that's where we're at. We need to start kind of tacking some stuff together. Yeah. Okay. You know, we've got to clean this up so we have a nice solid surface of metal to weld to. Okay, let's check our measurements. And 22. Nice. Okay, so now what I've done is I've welded that cross member in there and welded the brackets that are going to hold the trailing arm in place. Now we're trailing arms. It's official. It is officially a trailing arm. And I don't know if y'all noticed. You probably didn't because it was off camera. I got myself a new welder. I picked this thing up at the Harbor Freight just yesterday. It's a Berger. If you're French, maybe it's Berger. I don't really know how you say it. It's a Berger. Harbor Freight just came out with these things, and I'm going to do a review as much as I can. Listen, 120 bucks. I paid 90 on sale, or maybe 80, 85, 90 for the other one, and it was, well, you've seen how great those welds are. But anyway, these welds, way better. Anyway, it's a multi-process unit. You saw the red helmet. Got that on the inside track club sale for $35. Couldn't pass that up. It has racing stripes, which instantly made me a better welder. Anyway, let's look at the new mock-up. So this is now welded in place. That's bolted on. So now I've only got clamps holding the shock absorber on there. And now I can give it a like that. And you know, we don't need a ton of wheel travel. I think that's enough. It's just a few inches. It's a trailer. We're not riding on it. We just need enough to keep it from bouncing. And obviously I'm hoping that these eBay shocks are going to do a good job. I can hear the gas moving, and so in my mind that means they are top quality. Anyway, the only thing I really have to watch out for is, what am I stuck on? The only thing I really have to watch out for really is what will be the lower shock mount, but right now it's the upper because the whole thing's upside down. I've got it stuck on a place and a thing here on the control arm, trailing arm, and I have to make sure I've got it moved over just enough where the bolt head can come out. And actually, if I'm honest, I have to turn that around, so if I ever have to change the shock, I can use, I can take it, well, let me show you. So right here, see, I don't have a lot of clearance. I've moved it over a skosh because it was right up against this the first time I mocked this up, but I don't have a lot of clearance. But I think if I put the nut on this side, then it should be okay. I'm going to give it another final mock-up by turning this around, and then we'll see. Okay, well, I've reversed this around, so this is now the nut. That looks like it's going to clear. I've moved it over just a hair, and then I've moved this over, and now it's kind of at the edge to make the shock nice and straight. And at the edge, in my mind, that gives it better support anyway. There. So let's try this again and make sure this still works. Oh, that moved. Oh, what happened? Something happened. Oh, all my clamps came undone. Let me just put the camera down and fix that. Okay, try it again. Yep, it's smooth. The only thing you're hearing is this, you know, the stuff moving around a little bit, but that's okay. I think this is going to do it, folks. Clamp slipped again. So at this point, I think what I can do is go ahead and weld the shock mount brackets up and put it back together again. Then we can really test on it. Okay. All right, well, you can see I have full welded stuff in here. We've got an upper shock mount put in here. Of course, we have the mounts for the trailing arm. But here's really what I'm impressed with is this is a trailer axle spindle, and You can see that weld there, and I'm going to try to move this, but it has literally been like 25 minutes or so, and I still can't really grab even back here. This thing is so just hot, but I'm going to try to, let's just move it there. And you can see full weld there. Now these aren't the prettiest of welds. I know that. But with Mr. Berger right there, I could not have done this with that old welder. That Mr. Berger did quite well. And again, I don't know what I'm doing. So the way I did this though, because this steel is just so, well, there's a lot of it. And there's not a lot of that. So what I did is I ran the heat and the wire really more into the spindle here, and then drug it over to the thinner metal. And I did the exact same here, where I put most of the heat into the spindle, and you can actually see how hot it got. But I put the heat into the actual spindle and just kind of drug it down into the thinner metal. So once this cools off to where I can touch it, I'm going to put a shock back on it, hang a wheel on it, and we'll see how we did. And then I just got to do the same exact thing on the other side. Now that I've done it once, I know what mistakes to avoid. The geometry, well, at this point it kind of has to be right because we have full welded. It ain't going nowhere. But I'll catch back up to you in a bit when that thing is cool enough to touch. It's been like 25, almost 30 minutes now, and I still cannot touch the spindle with my hand. It's even at the tip, it's so hot. So I'll come back to you well, I'll just come back to you. Well now, I honestly didn't expect to finish the suspension build on donkey today. I mean, I started yesterday, like I said some time ago, but I really didn't expect to finish it today. But listen, folks, I kind of finished it. Of course, it's upside down, but if you look real close, if you squint, you can see a tire. It's kind of right there. Hard to miss, anyway. And I will start with saying nothing here is tightened up, nothing here is greased. Of course, we have to do all that, but we needed to get it fabricated. Remember, I am not a fabricator. So anyway, let's tour around, shall we? Completed side right there. You've got your shock, trailing arm, of course, that beefy crossbeam right there. And we're not done with the crossbeam. The tongue is going to attach on the front, weld there, weld there, weld there, and then go out that way. Here's a side that's doesn't have the tire on it, and mainly because that spindle, even though I've been done for about 15 minutes, I can't touch that spindle. So if I can't touch it, I don't want to put the hub on it that has a rubber hub seal and cause an issue. So we're just going to leave that alone for now. But let me put this on a tripod, and I'll flex that end down there, and you can see what we did. Okay, folks, here we go. I don't know what that is for wheel travel, about 3 inches, but look it looks like it's going to be pretty plush, and we're on the weakest setting here on the spring. We can make that stiffer by 4 more settings. So I think that's a good place to start. Everything in my mind seems strong. Sure. So listen, that's probably going to do it for this video and tonight. Listen, I'm tired. It's 7 o'clock and change in the evening. It's Sunday. I'm pretty dirty, fairly stinky, and I've got to get up in the morning for the day job. So I appreciate all of you hanging out with us, or me, because it's just been me out here. I haven't seen anybody else. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me while I've been building on this thing. It means a lot to me. If you're not subscribed, please go do that. It doesn't cost you anything other than you click a button. I think it's red and it says subscribe, and then after that, guess what? You're subscribed. And I guess that'll do it. Tell your friends, tell your relatives, whatever. I'm just being silly at this point. A little tired. Anyway, that'll do it for episode 4. I think this is part 4 of Project Donkey, where we have built, fabricated, welded in, made suspension, I think work. It works upside down anyway. But I guess that'll do it. In the meantime, y'all ride safe, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye now.